Hi everyone, I'm Samantha. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. So today's session is going to be very interesting because I'm not the one speaking. I'm inviting someone to be sharing some great insights for all career seekers as well as career practitioner. Now before I bring him on stage, of course right now I'm doing preparatory work, which I think is really interesting for me to just give you an introduction about him. Alright, so he's the founder and principal of Abundanz Consulting Private Limited. He is also the master instructor for Nodel's Job and Career Transition Coach Certification Program across Asia. He's a certified NCDA Facilitating Career Development Instructor. Now, NCDA stands for National Career Development Association. Alright, he is also the country leader for Coaching Game Points of View for Australia, New Zealand and Singapore. He is also the master trainer for Singapore Global Career Development Facilitator Program, GCDF for short. So he has a lot of credential up his sleeve, man. In 2017, he was awarded Emerging Leader Award, and in 2018, he was awarded Outstanding Career Educator Award. So over the past 20 years of his experience in psychotherapy, he has been training counselors and coaches across region in different countries, and in Singapore context he have trained people in Ministry of Education, he have trained people in Workforce Singapore, E2I, as well as universities like NTU. So currently he is based in Australia, so we are going to have a little bit of time zone difference. He is 2.5 hours ahead of Singapore time. He's training and teaching masterclass at Australia College for Applied Psychology, as well as in Singapore he's also teaching in James Cook University. So it's really an honor for me to be able to invite him to do some sharing with me. So stay tuned, you will be in for really good stuff. Alright, see you later. 3, 2, 1. So really thank you for taking the time to have this session with me. I think it's my honor really to learn from Shifu.
It's my pleasure too.
Okay, I think it's interesting, because like people talk about like financial management, people talk about wealth creation, people talk about investment, etc. But nobody really pay attention to talk about work. Like work is like a taboo thing. People don't talk about work. It's like, okay, I'm done with work from Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. After that, don't mention work to me. Like, yourself, you have been in this industry, you have been in this field, helping so many individuals and also helping so many career practitioners to excel in what we do, right? For almost 20 years. I mean, what is it that, keep you going? I'm just very interested to find out.
I think that it all starts from the point of having a very clear goal and a clear purpose in what we do. So for me, one of course I had a benefit in the mid-90s when in my very first job I remember at the time we went for a 7 Habits of Highly Effective People training. So in that particular training, the trainer was telling us that we needed to have a very clear end goal in mind. So I think the statement is start with the end in mind or something like that. One of the 7 habits. So one of the ideas I had at the time was to create a goal that is like sounds a bit cliche, but it's around helping people to achieve the potential in life. So that was something I created, within the space of a couple of hours because we're all supposed to do that. But interestingly, that particular goal or this statement or this vision statement stood with me all these years, because after in my first job, then I went on to become a secondary school counsellor for 7 years, and then after 12 years in SMU, working with students as well, and then after that coming out, running my own company, and then now teaching here in Australia. If I look at all these phases in my life, every point I'm doing the same thing in a sense of helping people to reach their potential. So in a way, having that goal gave me a very clear direction, so that whatever options came about, I asked myself, do these options, are they aligned to what my goal and my purpose is? If it's aligned, go for it. If it's not aligned, probably not. Yeah. So that's the reason why I think I've been able to stay such a long time in this field for so long.
That's pretty cool. So you kind of do your own career management in a way. It sounds like your own career development. So maybe for the start, to share with most of us who aren't really into all these terms and jargons, we are not very sure. Maybe you can walk us through like what is the difference between career management, career development, career planning. They are very big words, but how do we differentiate them?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question you asked, then, because the many of these terms are sort of interchangeable. Career development really is about a very long-term plan where we look at the tasks or the activities that we do, which are all aligned to the personal goal and the personal purpose. So meaning to say that for all of us, there are things that we do which we are usually, when we talk about careers, we always think about jobs and the things that we do which are paid to do. So very often, individuals will think, oh, my career, oh, I'm working as an engineer, or I'm working as a teacher, or I'm working as a social media influencer like you. so very often,
far from it.
anyway, so a lot of people will think in terms of career from the paid perspective. But in terms of careers development, there's also this unpaid component in our life where we are also involved with other things in our lives where there's no pay. We do it out of a passion, we do it out of commitment. Like for example, Sam, you are a daughter to someone, all right? Or you are if you've got a partner, you're somebody's partner. If you do volunteer work, you are a volunteer in an organization. So like for example, I'm a father, so I'm a dad to my two grown-up adult children. I'm also a husband. So these are all roles which we play, which are not part of what we call paid roles. But these two are very important. So to me, career development has this component where we will look at the different components of our life that we play, so that and ensuring that these parts are all aligned to our purpose and our goal. So that's in terms of the personal perspective. Now, when it comes to career management, then this is where I would then zoom in a little bit more to an individual's career within an organization. So usually this is where people start to think in terms of the paid jobs first. So let's say if an individual works within a huge MNC, for example, then the idea of managing their career, especially now in the 21st century, is recognizing that they are now planning their career within the organization. If they desire to stay in the organization for a long time, then what do they need to do to manage their own progression within the organization? Even if there is a point where an individual chooses, I probably had enough of working in the organization, I want to do something else outside. It is still considered career management because they are now planning and managing their own career, where they want to go and how they want to move into different roles, whether it's similar roles, different roles, same sector, same industry, or different sector, different industry. Whether is it a vertical move or is it a horizontal move, a lattice move. It doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, the individual now is planning their own career. So career development is about understanding the different roles we play. Career management is managing that progress across our career development pathway. And maybe another term people talk about will also be things like your career planning, your career pathways. So career planning, I would say that it is all linked to the mindset of the career development and career management. Because in order for these things to happen, the individual needs to plan for the career. Of course, there is this block of study where sometimes people, when they go through their career journey, they encounter things that they don't plan for. Like for example, I don't know if you remember in our FCD, I talked about how that looking at our own careers, every one of us, there are probably situations where we didn't really plan for. Opportunities presented itself to us, and we took the risk to take it up, to take it on. So without knowing whether it would turn out well or not. And this is what we call happenstance. Now, happenstance really is where when opportunities pop itself up, we have to ask ourselves, whether should I take up this opportunity or not? Whether is it aligned to my goal and my purpose or not? So for individuals who don't have a career planning kind of mindset, chances are they might, and especially if they're not risk takers, they probably say, probably not, because I'm not sure how safe this move will be. Will I shake my stability or something like that? But if a person has the person always thinking about planning their career, what next steps they're going to do, how to ensure that they are always growing as an individual, then maybe when a happenstance situation occurs, they may then see that as aligned to the direction which is part of the career planning perspective. Yeah. So that's my idea. I'm not well, different people, different theories will probably have different perspectives, but this is just how I think the differences are.
Well, I guess it makes sense, because to me, it's not just about theory, it's also about execution and implementation of the theories that we learn. So it's pretty interesting, and it sounds like happenstance to me is also having a very positive mindset, viewing opportunities rather than seeing it as a threat. So you mentioned about, constantly developing or look into your career plan. So, how often should one review our career plan actually? It's like, like how financial advisor will come to you and review your financial portfolio then. In terms of our career portfolio, how often should we review?
I would think that it is probably, if you can, I mean, taking a leave from financial planner or even our health checks that we do on a yearly basis.
Exactly.
I guess financial planning comes to career health checks that is useful for us to consider maybe once every 2-3 years, or even better, at least once every 2 years. Why I say that is because very often if we are in a particular role, say imagine you're new or fresh in the role, it will probably take around 12 to 18 months for us to get used to that new role. So then it's only after the 18th month point that people start thinking whether, is this something I want to do? Is this something very exciting for me? Can I see myself doing this for a long time? And this is the kind of time where a bit of transitions take place, whether transitions to do something else or transitions to say, yes, this is what I want to do. So I would say that on average, maybe between 18 to 24 months would be a good time for everyone to do a bit of a career health check. And of course, when we do career health check, it's important to have conversations with career practitioners like yourself, and especially for those listeners of Sam's in this channel. If you are still thinking at this point of time, I'm not so sure about my career journey, and I don't know who to talk to, I think Sam's the right person to talk to, because she's going to help you, guide you through this whole process.
Okay. It can talk to you as well. Really, really. You work with so many individuals, you work with so many students. I'm sure you have a lot to offer. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I approach you, because I think that credibility, the credential, and the really know-how of what is happening on ground is very important. So I actually came across one of your article that you wrote, you share about 3 tips of future-proof your career. And then you mentioned 3 points. One of the 2 points was lifelong learning, as well as think technology. Yeah. So since you're in the school context, right, I'm just wondering, what do you think about STEM education? Is it really so important for someone to excel in their career? I'm seeing that a lot of people just, blindly go for what is the hottest thing. Like data technology is the hot thing, people just go for it. So, how should people balance this actually?
Well, I'll say that when it comes to STEM, as in science, technology, engineering, and math, this whole space, I think it's not just only in Singapore, but significantly governments across the world, even like here in Australia, the Aussie government also is encouraging a lot of students to move into STEM, especially for women to go into STEM, because traditionally STEM is very male-dominated. Of course, in the 21st century, the recognition is that both men and women can do STEM. I would say that STEM has a very big part to play in the push for technology. I mean, like it or not, we are in the technological age, Industry 4.0. In fact, we're now moving into Industry 5.0. I'm not sure, Sam, have you heard of Industry 5? But probably some of the hearers would have, right? So we know Industry 5 is going beyond just AI, going beyond robots, is where it is taking this AI and technology and blending it with human needs and taking the whole piece even further. So it's sort of like augmenting of technology with what we are able to do. So I would say that in the next decade, maybe 15, 20 years from now, that the entire space of work, technology, all this is going to be blended so closely that there is you'll come to a point where technology is so prevalent. So it's no longer about being aware of technology. It is just all part and parcel of our daily life. So meaning to say, I would think that for all of us, that if we are a little bit behind in terms of STEM or even technology familiarity, it is important for us to, doesn't mean that we have to all know how to do coding. No, it doesn't mean that. But what we need to do, I think, a very critical component for all of us in the 21st century is knowing how to use technology, knowing how to harness technology to improve the work that we do. whether your work involves working with other people, or your work involves ideas creation, or your work involves whatever the workspace is all about, is knowing how to harness existing technology or growing technology to enhance the work that you do. That will be I think that will become mainstream, and employers will increasingly be looking for employees with this kind of mindset, that there's no longer a fear of technology, but they recognize that technology is really much a part of who they are. So this is probably an increasing expectation. So I would think that, to answer your question, Sam, I think yes, STEM and having the technological edge or technological ability to harness it is a very important skill set and mindset as well in the next 10, 15 years.
Cool. Actually, I'm actually writing notes because I'm learning myself as well. And I really like what you say about knowing how to harness the technology, because not all of us have the talents or the strength or the love for coding, but we must at least know how to use the product in the daily function that we are doing. So
Correct, yeah.
I follow you very closely. So of course, I also read one of your most latest article, which you actually published for Salesforce, right?
Yeah.
So you're talking about future-proofing your well-being in Industry 4.0. Yeah, so you're talking about 5.0 just now. So, so you mentioned about 5 tips that we can really work on to future-proof ourselves, especially our well-being, because a lot of people talk about work, but I think for yourself, you also talk about work and well-being at the same time. So maybe can you give us some insights about what should we be looking into?
Well, very often, okay, maybe this at this point I'm talking to Singaporeans, especially Singaporeans, that we all know Singaporeans tend to. I think it's a good trait that Singaporeans work really hard. But the flip side of it is that by working so hard, we actually negate or neglect, rather the right word is neglect, a little bit of our own personal well-being. So in a sense, if you look at it in a very interesting way, COVID-19 has been sort of like a wake-up call to not just the Singaporeans, but people around the world, that we really need to ensure that we take care of our own well-being, our own mental health, our own physical health, our own emotional health, spiritual health, whatever level of health in terms of well-being and wellness. Because to me, right, that the tendency for us to work and especially when we, of course, the flip side of it in COVID is that we are working longer hours because there's no longer travel time. Like you hop off from bed, do your morning routine, take your breakfast. Next thing you know, you're on the table doing work, and that's probably what 8 o'clock, 8:30, and then we probably take a couple of breaks in between, and then we go all the way to maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock, and dinner time, that kind of thing. So the thing is that there's little traveling nowadays. So we actually working harder, and if we do not be mindful of our need to ensure that there's a good balance for wellness, I think it's going to increasingly impact. I mean, the recent case in Singapore, that high school student case, I wouldn't entirely correlate that with the work kind of environment, but that is to me like a wake up call. That even though it is in a school environment, the wake up call really is this: that mental health is such a very critical component that all of us, whether young, middle age, or older age, we really need to spend the time to ensure that mentally wellness, we are all paying attention to that. Of course, some tips is one is we do mental health is not just about yourself, because the doing things by ourselves is one thing because it gives us a sort of like a me time, which is important. But I'll also say that spending time with your partners, your significant others, friends, that is also very important time for mental health, because that allows you to interact, that allows you to have that human contact, human touch, because no person is an island. So if we and that's I'm speaking to myself as well, right? That if I spend too much time just being by myself, what will happen is that we'll go a bit bonkers lah. So I think this component of work and wellness is also something that we need to spend a lot of time being mindful of, and ensuring that all of us are taking care of ourselves. Because if we don't take care of ourselves first, then how can we take care of others around us?
It's true.
So I think, Dr. Tim, you wrote the tips in your article. So I'll share the article link together with this video so y'all can go and read the article. But I just want to bring up one tip that I saw on this article, especially in the context of career management. And then you mentioned 2-3 times, I think, throughout our conversation about knowing your goal, knowing your purpose. And tip number 1 that you shared in the article was establish your VIPS. A little bit about VIPS, and is there any tools or assessments that we can engage ourselves? If let's say I am, seeking a job seeker right now, or I'm just looking into understanding myself further, is there somewhere that I can look into?
Yeah. Well, the VIPS is what I call our career attributes. Now, all of us, every one of us have what we call career attributes. Career attributes, fundamentally, to me, they are factors or shapes and motivates us to move towards certain kind of work that we will enjoy. So what are the career attributes? VIPS. V for our career values, I for our career interests, P for our personality, and S for skills. So when it comes to VIPS, the important thing is that all these 4 components or elements work together to enable an individual to at least have a clear perspective of the kind of work that I give you an example. Now, if a person is one of the values, for example, is say maybe helping others, right? Like one of the values I have, helping others. Now, and my interest is I like to do, say, analysis work, for example, or I like to do investigative work, and doing data crunching, not necessarily data crunching, but doing looking at analysis and stuff like that. And my personality is I'm an introverted person by nature, and my skill set is I have ability to maybe communicate, ability to analyze, ability to do the write or whatever that may be. So if you look at the VIPS combined together, it gives myself sort of clearer idea of the strength that I have, the kind of person that I am. That being a person with the value of wanting to help people, I utilize my ability or my skill sets to teach, to analyze, to write under this whole space of maybe as a lecturer, as a teacher, as an educator, as a coach, so that I will put myself in a job role, or I create for myself a role that allows me to fully harness these different components so that I am fully satisfied. Now, this goes back to a bit of a theory, if you don't mind, for our listeners, that when it comes to there is this person by the name of John Holland, many years ago, right? Of course, he's passed away, but Holland has came out with a very strong career interest theory. And of course, generally, we all know the career interest, but of course, Holland's perspective is this, that if an individual enjoys the work that they do, then chances are they will stay in the role for a long time. So you take that one step back. How does an individual know that they enjoy the work that they do? Then we need to then go back to help this individual figure out what is it that they're interested to do. What is it that motivates them to do that work that they're interested to do? So that means to say there must be some kind of an element or some kind of an assessment or some kind of a process that we can help people to figure out. And that is why this VIPS is such an important component for everyone. Every single person, whether you're a secondary school 12, 13-year-old person, a 20-year-old, 21-year-old, graduating from school, going to the workplace, or you are a mid-career individual, 30, 40 years old, you're a person retiring, 60 years old, 65 years old, we all need to know our VIPS because our VIPS changes over time. So that's why it goes back to our earlier point, Sam, is that we need to, every 18 to 24 months, have that career check. So that we will ask ourselves, has our VIPS shifted? Has my skill sets changed? Has my values changed? Because values change over time depending on our life stages. So this is to me, is the very first step to everything that we do in the career space. Whether it's a person wanting to career plan for themselves, whether the person is looking at their own career development process, looking at the paid jobs as well as the unpaid roles that they play, or even career managing their paid job roles within an organization or moving outside organization, it all starts with your VIPS. Our company, Abundanz Consulting in Singapore, we are actually the distributor of the Nodel card sorts. So the Nodel card sorts actually are a set of career card sorts or assessment tools, which are very cheap, about $30 per card deck that you can actually purchase off our website. abundanceconsulting.com. Anyway, we have a career values card sort. Unfortunately, I don't have it with me right now, but the career values card sort essentially allows an individual to sort of look at all the values in the card deck form, and then they sort those cards into maybe the top 8 career values for themselves. So this gives every individual an opportunity to to have a vocabulary. Looking at all the different card sorts is like having a vocabulary to articulate what are their top values for themselves. Then we also have a motivated skills card sort that allows an individual to figure out their own transferable skills. Now, one thing I forgot to mention earlier, in terms of skills, there are 2 kinds of skills. One is your transferable skill. It means these are skills that we can transfer from one job role to another job role. Like, for example, your leadership skill, or your communication skill, or your analytical skills, for example. All these skills you can transfer from one role to another role. Then the other set of skills is what we call your technical skills. So technical skills are skills that we all learn from school. So when you do your diploma, your degree, or your master's, whatever academic program, right, that will be a technical skill that we learn. So for example, if you graduated in engineering, for example, then your technical skills is in the space of engineering. Or if you graduated as a nurse, for example, in a diploma of nursing, then the skills that you have is as a nurse. But in that technical space, this is where I want to bring the next component. Let me just, I'll come back to the tools now. Let me just sidetrack. There's what we call a T-shaped employee, right? Most of us have one core skill, which is that technical skill that we are trained to have in school. So like for example, my core skill was counseling or coaching. So for the longest time as a counselor in high school, or even a counsellor in the university, I only used that skill because I was a one-person show, right? But the thing is, as we grow as an individual, and in order for us to progress in our own career management and career planning, we need to start looking at your transferable skill, which is your horizontals. So that means having your analytical skills, your leadership skills, your communication skills, all those components are part of a T-shape thing, so that you can, with the T, the horizontal, we are then able to present ourselves beyond just only having that vertical. But there's also another component. This is T, right? So I would also suggest that we want to consider moving to become a M-shaped employee.
Wow, that's interesting. I only heard about X. I never heard about M.
Maybe you can tell me about X. I don't know about X. What about M? Now, M will be you have initially your T, right? So we have your vertical, which is your technical skill, and your horizontal, which is your transferable skill. But the M shape means that we need to have at least 2 other technical skills that strengthens the things that we do. So for example, I'll give you an example. So back to my technical skill. Originally was counseling and coaching. Then when I was head of department, right, as a counseling center at SMU, I used my horizontal to be head of department. So I do all those other things. But then when I left the uni and started my own company, which I'm sure some of you understand how it feels, that you can't just rely on that counseling skill. I had to know how to teach effectively. I had to know how to have skills to do consulting, for example. So all these other verticals came into the picture now. That I'm still using counseling, coaching skills, but at the same time, I know how to teach. I know how to present, and I know to do right curriculum or write proposals and stuff. So all these becomes my other vertical skills, and it's further enhanced by my transferable skills. So in the third decade of the 21st century, we need to have at least, my perspective, at least 2 vertical skills. I mean, 1 is good, but if you have 2, that makes you even more employable. So that's in terms of just a sidetrack, Now come back to the tool. So then of course we have we have your career interests. Now career interests and personality. Maybe before I talk about career interests, personality tools, I think quite a lot of your listeners in Singapore or around the world, we probably are quite familiar with your personality assessment tools like your DISC, your MBTI, all those various. So that is will be the component around assessing your personality. Now, for those of you in Singapore, that the Singapore government's My Skills Future website actually has 3 tools that all of you can use through your SingPass. You have your values, your skills, as well as your interests. So that is a very, very useful tool because it's free, right? So you can use it. For those listeners and viewers of Sam's program, if you're outside of Singapore, then I'll suggest you go to this US website called the ONET. online. ONET stands for Occupation Net, but just type ONET, go to Google, ONET, and that will bring you to also assessment tools. It is a career interest tools that's based in the US, where you can actually look at your career interests. That addresses your I of your VIPS. Of course, in useful will be just to do a Google check, because every day there'll be new website that comes up with different free things. And I think recently I also saw a website that has a sort of the free values assessment tool as well. So I think there are many tools out there that that allows everyone to do a self career attributes check if you don't want to talk to a career coach for that.
So pretty interesting. Nodal card sorts, right? Is that how we talk about? Yeah. Okay,
That's right,
cool.
yeah.
So that is something that individual can actually purchase off the shelf to, do a self-assessment should they not want to find a career practitioner. Now, in the event if they want to engage a career practitioner to help our audience or individual to be able to choose someone that is suitable for them, what do you think are the top 3 qualities or things that an individual should look out for should they want to engage a career practitioner?
Okay, I would say the very first thing you need to check, right, is to check that this practitioner has received career training. That means not just there are some established career trainings out there, Yeah, I won't say too negative stuff, but it's important that the practitioner, you need to check the background that this person has received a training that is sort of recognized. So how do you know it's recognized? In Singapore, go check with the Career Development Association of Singapore, CDES. Go to the website cdes.org.sg. I know CDES because I'm the president of CDES, right? So one of the things we do is we are going in the midst of actually trying to list down recognized programs in Singapore that our association recognized that it is of a certain level or standards when it comes to equipping practitioners with the career background. So that's the first thing, the training the person must be receiving that must be recognized, number 1. 2, it's also important that this individual is an individual who is able to tailor the entire coaching to your needs and not just a generic thing. Because if you're going to be looking for a career coach, you want a career coach who's able to listen to your needs, to understand what you're looking for, and then be able to use the right tools and the right frameworks and the right approach to help you. It's just like a carpenter. I always use the example. A carpenter has a toolbox. So if a carpenter goes to a place and to say fix something up, you should be suspicious if the carpenter uses, for every job he or she uses only a hammer. So the other tools don't use. Then something is a bit suspicious. But a carpenter worth their salt will probably look at the role or the particular job and use the different tools to ensure that particular job is done well. So for a career coach, the same thing. We need to understand, or at least have a bit of a check to see whether this particular career practitioner is able to tailor their approach to you. One thing I always recommend is, if you are looking for a career coach, ask if the career coach will provide you with a half an hour free intake session. Now, that is a very important thing, because that's something I would do, is that I'll provide every potential client a half an hour conversation, because I want the client to also check me out, just as well for me to see if I'm the right person to help the client. So this way, in a half an hour conversation, we sort of assess each other, on a very informal way, but at the same time allows both the client and the coach to be comfortable and to know whether can we help each other or not. So if at the end of the half an hour, then of course the invitation is open to the client, that's what I'll do. I will usually send an email to the potential client and share, okay, this is what we talked about, and this is what I can do for you. And then from there, if the client is open and the client is ready, then we proceed. If the client is not ready, no problem. Sometimes I may even recommend or refer other practitioners to help the client. Because to me, it's all about ensuring that the client receives the help. So there's the second point. I would say the third point, again, I want to I'll be biased, but if the person is not a member of the Career Development Association of Singapore, then you may ask, why not? So I would say that, if the person is a member of the Career Development Association, then this individual has all the qualities and all the passed all the criteria, and this person has met our minimum standard of being a career practitioner in Singapore.
Very cool. Luckily, I'm one of your members.
Yes, you are. I know.
Okay. I think one thing that I really like about CDES is that it's like I think it's a lot of support for be it the consumer or for the coaches or career practitioner themselves, because I think at the end of the day there are a lot of people who love to help each other, to help one
Yes.
another. I think it's really good to have that kind of social empathy going around. Yeah, so even we have mid-career switcher intending to switch into career coaching, career practitioner. I think having CDES and understanding what is the registered, approved training programs to attend to, I think is fabulous, because there are so many training programs out there. Yeah, so having a consolidated one-stop solution to know where to go, I think is fantastic.
Absolutely right.
Really cool. Yeah. So, yes, I think I asked a lot of questions.
No?
Okay.
That's what the interview is all about, right?
Really? I've been scribbling so much, that I'm kind of like losing it already. Yeah. So,